Good evening, everyone. Welcome. Come on in. Good evening. Hi, Liz. How are you?
Evening.
Good
Great to
evening.
see you.
And you too. And you too. We'll just give a couple of minutes for some others to join us, and then we will kickstart this webinar. Hoping everyone is okay. All is well. Don't think I'm sitting here just in kind of strappy dresses in the UK in the evening. I am not in the country. I am abroad in the Caribbean and in the sun. So for those of you that are not on holiday, I'm hoping I'm making you jealous.
You are Dee, because you've left me here to do the work. So I'm very jealous, actually. I don't want to hear it anymore. We had a high of 22 degrees, and look, I got the short sleeves out. Yeah, 22 degrees, and I'm jumping for joy. Yeah, and you're in the Caribbean.
Oh my God, it's a lot hotter here, let me tell
I
you.
can
But
imagine.
sweltering. We're sweltering here. Okay, all right. So we're letting a few more people in. And let me say welcome to our webinar, our GP clinic, actually, General Property Clinic, which we hold on the first Wednesday of every month. Sometimes it is topic led, and today is one of those days. So just to let you know, for any of you that are joining us that have never been here before, we are here for 1 hour, finishing at 8 o'clock. Tonight, we will be discussing landlords selling up. You know, there's a lot of selling up that's going on of portfolios, and we have a guest speaker joining us tonight who is Emmanuel Ezekiel. But before I hand over to Emmanuel, I'm just going to pass over to Addy so that he can say a quick hi. And for those of you, again, who don't know, Addy is my fellow co-founder of Nelston Property Consultants, Mr. Addy Stone. So Addy, do you want to introduce yourself before I hand over to Emmanuel?
Thank you very much for that, Dee. Good evening, everybody. Again, you know, my view is always, if you can take the time out to educate yourself, have topical discussions around what's going on in the market, then you're doing a lot better than most. So again, pat yourselves on the back. Good to see everybody. And I'm sure we're going to have a wonderful nights of information and knowledge to impart.
Brilliant. Thank you, Addy. So without further ado, I am going to bring to the stage Mr. Emmanuel Ezekiel. He is not only just a fellow consultant working alongside us and a strategic business partner of MPC, but he's also a seasoned property investor, having been in the game for many years, or the industry for many years. He is an author. He is also a financial engineer, has been very pivotal in the lending side of property. So so that's just a small snippet about who Emmanuel is. He's also a consultant as well, a management consultant or property management consultant. But I think if I hand over to you, Emmanuel, you'll be better placed to tell everybody about you and what you do. All right?
Just before you say anything, Emmanuel, can I just add something? Dia said that you've been in the game for quite a few years. I would change that from years to decades, because I've known you for years and you've been in this game for many, many. So just to qualify, I think that's more a few decades.
I
Sorry.
was trying not to give his age away, Addy. That's all.
Oh, yeah, well, he's 55. You could have started early if he's only 55. All right, man. You can pay me later.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
We can.
Great. My name is Emmanuel Ezekiel. I have been in this industry for a very long time. I ran one of the largest mortgage companies. We had over 50 brokers, 100 staff working for us, and I was instrumental in changing how all mortgages were calculated in the UK. Interest in data. I'm also a property developer and have quite a large portfolio. So that's just give you some of my sort of background. If we can go to the actual slide itself. As we're waiting for the slides, the topic is, why are landlords selling up in their droves? What are the opportunities for them and for you? There's quite a lot of opportunities in the current marketplace. Next slide, please. So one of the things what's making landlords sell up is the rising rates of interest. We've seen landlords' mortgage payments go up quite dramatically, even though the rents have gone up. It's impacted the cash flow of most landlords quite significantly, and older landlords are getting very tired dealing with all the rules, all the regulations that are evolving with tenancies and maintaining their cash flow as well as mortgages. And the older that you get, the harder it is to be able to get a mortgage. So there's lots of reasons why landlords are selling currently. The other part is tax adjustments. The recent changes in tax policies are severely eroding landlords' profits, because how tax used to be deducted was all the interest on your mortgage payment was tax deductible. So hypothetically, if you had a rental income of £1,000 a month and you had a mortgage payment of £500 a month, you could deduct the full £500 from your rental income, and that meant you'd only pay tax on the £500 that's remaining. However, the government decided to change that calculation, so you now pay tax on the full amount of your rental income. And worse than that, your rental income is added to any other income that you have. So lots of landlords now find themselves in the higher tax bracket. So if they've got 3 or 4 properties, they're generating £1,000 a month, that's £48,000 a year in gross income on top of their other income. They're now being taxed at a much higher rate. So tax efficiently, they are supporting their own property portfolios. They're effectively paying for the tenant to be in their property. Yes, they're having lots of landlords leaving because of the tax adjustments. Then we've got the anticipated policies from Labour, the new reforms that are coming into effect, which making a lot of landlords, especially the older landlords, very nervous. New landlords coming to the market haven't had the advantages of the older landlords and the tax regimes and the legislation, but new people coming in will work with the new legislation. So the older landlords are getting nervous. They want to actually come out of the marketplace. And there are a growing number of landlords that are now really looking to consider. They've made a lot of money in their property portfolio over the last 10, 15, 20 years. They've made the profit and they're looking to exit as efficiently as possible. Next slide, please.
Just before you go on to the next one, Emmanuel, can I share a personal experience of mine? I remember having a property, as you exactly rightly said, I'm paying for the tenant to be there. I thought I was netting out about £3,000 on this particular property a year. And I thought, okay, with a bit of maintenance, maybe 2,005 or thereabouts. When I got my tax bill was 3,002. So it was actually, when I looked at it as the whole picture, I was running at £700 loss in that property. That was ridiculous because the interest rates went up, couldn't fix them. So I totally agree with what you're saying there. There are some landlords who are finding that they think they're making money, but when they look at the overall picture and the tax bill that comes later on, some are not actually making money.
Yeah, so before we go to the next slide, there's one other thing I need to cover, which is quite important. New landlords coming into the marketplace aren't buying in their own personal name. They're buying in new, better tax efficient structures in limited companies and LLPs, and those do benefit from the advantage of having your interest payments offset from your rental income. So in the same basis as before, you got a rental income of £1,000 a month, you got £500 a month in mortgage payments, you're only paying tax on the difference, and in a limited company, you're paying corporation tax, which is much less to the actual personal tax regime after deducting all other costs that you can normally offset from your business. So people entering to the marketplace are buying in more tax efficient structures, and that's why people coming in can benefit compared to landlords who have bought in their own name that are no longer benefiting because they're in the higher tax bracket. Next slide, please. Now, because landlords are becoming nervous in the marketplace, they are selling, and they're selling properties, which means tenants are increasingly competing for the properties that are available, making it much more difficult for the tenants to secure the property. And that has a knock-on effect of actually increasing rents. We've seen rents increase quite dramatically over the last couple of years. And if you're in a good area, you're getting tenants competing for the same property where they're going into a bidding war. And that's one of the things that the Labour government are trying to stop, is that you no longer can say offers in excess of or get a bidding war. You have to set your benchmark at the price that you actually want. So the heightened competition for the properties is making rental much more challenging for a tenant. It makes it much more efficient for a good landlord that has a good property that is in good condition. So as a landlord, you have you have a much higher pool of selection to allow you to choose the best tenants for your property. That means the ones with the highest income, the best referencing, and the best credit scores. So as a landlord, it's getting better for you to choose the right kind of landlord, tenant, especially with these new rules and regulations that are coming in. So as a business, you can choose who your customer is going to be. Now, in terms of buyer discounts, because landlords are coming out the marketplace, have held it for quite some time, a lot of their properties aren't fully refurbished, which gives you the ability to buy one at a discounted price. If you see how many properties are being put on the market by landlords now, it's the highest it's been for the last 10 years. So the ability to buy a property and be able to negotiate a price with landlords and create very creative strategies, which we'll probably touch upon a little bit later, of how you can actually help landlords exit the market that's efficient for them and cost you less money at the same time. So this strategic market does present huge amount of opportunity if you understand finance, you understand property, you understand taxation, and how to solve the problem for the landlord that wants to exit without losing their shirt, or in my case, t-shirt. Next slide, please. So opportunities for investors. There are going to be discounted deals for landlords. There are multiple properties on the market. If you look on Rightmove, Zoopla, that you've seen a number of reductions over a period of time. Now, the reason why a landlord will sell at a discount is numerous. So let me give you one of them. Most mortgage lenders do not want to take a property on with a tenant in place, which means the landlord has to keep the property unoccupied. So they then lose their rental income. They got to pay the council tax and they've got to pay the mortgage. So there's a benefit for the landlord to actually agree a discounted to a guaranteed sale. So there's many different ways of looking from a opportunity perspective, where the pain is for the landlord to help them exit. Plus, at the same time, you're going to have landlords that have quite a large increase from when they bought the property to when they exit. So their capital gains is going to be high. So that's why I said, if you understand finance, you understand property, understand taxation, you can come up with a very creative way of helping a landlord exit. One of the things that I do, and I'll cover this now, is I actually do vendor finance. So I help a landlord sell, and they pay part of the deposit, or they'll pay part of my stamp duty as a rebate to make my cost going in a lot less. And we'll cover that. Diane and Addy will also cover those very creative kind of opportunities. So creative finance with low deposit deals. That's what I mean, where a vendor will contribute some of the deposit back. In the good old days, when we were acquiring properties 15, 20 years ago, that was quite commonplace, where a vendor or a new build builder would give you your stamp duty or your deposit. Then there's lots of opportunities for joint ventures. A lot of people want to participate in property. They have amounts of cash sitting in the bank earning very low rates of interest, and they want to participate in property and generate a monthly reoccurring income. I don't believe there's actually passive income in property. It's reoccurring, because there's always something that you need to do in property, whether it be just collecting the rent and checking with your tenant, where you're doing buy, refurbish, refinance, rent to rent. All the different strategies require some kind of work, but you do get reoccurring income. Then there's, as I said, repurposing properties. There's lots of properties in the marketplace that need some kind of work. So buy, refurbish, refinance, or you can repurpose it from a 1 bed to a 2 bed, a 2 bed to a 3 bed. Houses with permitted development and prior approval. You can go into the roof, or you can extend without actually getting planning consent. If you put in the application how it's supposed to be, within 58 days, you've got a guaranteed ability to extend either into the loft or extend to the rear. Also knowing your tenant avatar. What kind of tenant are you going to be renting to? So traditional buy-to-let is where the bread and butter has been. However, you can look at any property and look at it. What's the maximum rental I can get from it? Is it going to be standard buy-to-let? Can you repurpose it as a HMO? Can you do it as serviced accommodation? Or can you let it to a housing association or social housing and increase your rent? Every property has multiple ways of you to be able to generate income. A tired landlord is a tired landlord. They just want to get out. So if you can help them exit, and sometimes exiting gives them a little bit of extra income at the same time. When I said about understanding tax, sometimes you don't actually have to purchase the property. You can just take over with a lease option. And I don't know if you guys have heard of a lease option before. So lease is the opportunity to control the property without owning it. And I can go back probably 10 or 15 years. I bought 9 properties from my carpet fitter who was going back to Zimbabwe in Colchester, and I bought 9 properties for £10. If I get a chance, I'll actually play the recording of the transaction, because a lot of people say, well, how did you do that? That was controlling £1.6 million of the property with £10. So there's lots of ways to acquire property if you understand finance, you understand mortgages, you understand taxation, and you understand how to make a deal structured properly.
Emmanuel, can I come in at
Cool.
this point before we move to the next slide? I think listening to hear 1.6 mil worth of property, getting it for £10. I mean, that is amazing. I kind of know how it's done, but I think a lot of colleagues and attendees tonight would find that amazing. So what I would say is, look, if you want to know more about it and how deals like that can be worked, not every time can a deal like that be worked, but there are deals out there still that can be done. Please come and see us at NPC. Let's give you the detailed breakdown of how it works. Then you can go out and source those deals. You may source 10 and only 2 will work. It is a numbers game. But if you know how to do it, as Emmanuel said, if you understand tax, if you understand finance, sometimes you don't necessarily have all that understanding, and you don't have time to go and get that knowledge by listening and watching videos, come and speak to us. We'll give you the summarized version and give you a strategy on how you can go forward with it. Because I think what you've just said there is appealing to everybody in this present climate where, liquidity is difficult to come by. And if there are ways you can get things cheap, and even as you said, you can own property without buying it, that's got to be a good thing. So come and talk to us more about that. But sorry, Manuel, continue.
Yeah, lease options are one of the greatest strategies in property if you don't have a lot of money. And there are lots of people that will let you take control of their property for you taking away their headache. Once you know what the problem is and how to solve the problem, a lease option gives you the right to control the property and to purchase it further down the line. And I often give an example for a car, because a lot of people understand cars. When you go to buy a car of £50,000, not everybody has 50,000. So they might put down a small deposit of £200 or £300 or maybe £1,000, and they pay for that car on a monthly basis. At the end of 3 or 4 years, you've got one of a couple of options. You can either give the car back, or you can pay a balloon payment and take ownership of the car. You can do exactly the same thing with a property. You can take control of the property, you can pay for it monthly, you agree a purchase price today, and you complete the purchase sometime in the future. But during the time of you taking over the property and completing the purchase, you get all the benefits of owning it without actually owning it during the time. So you can benefit from all the rental income during that period of time. It's a very strong strategy. As a developer, I do it all the time. You may have heard developers go to somebody and say, I think your house could be turned into flats or to 2 houses or 3 houses. I'd like to take an option on your property subject to planning. I'll go and get the planning. And when I get the planning, if your house is worth £1 million, I'll give you 1.1 or 1.2 when I get planning. That's the same thing, but in a different way of how developers do it. That's how big developers do it. They find a piece of land, they give an option to the owner, they go and create the value and then purchase it at a later date at a higher value. So this is a slightly different way where you actually control a property, somebody that owns it, and there are lots of tied landlords. There are also landlords that have little or no equity in their property. So it doesn't benefit them to sell it because they're not going to get anything from it. So if you know how to maximize the rental income, I do this a lot. Let's say that the mortgage payment is £1,000 a month and the rental payments are £1,000 a month. In reality, you're not making any profit. What if you could actually increase that rental income by using a different strategy to £2,000 a month and the mortgage only £1,000 a month? And that's exactly what I did with those 9 properties. The person didn't know how to manage it properly. He wasn't getting the right rental income. He was in little or no equity. His rental income was lower than his mortgage payments. I was able to turn all of that around and create a negative cash flow to a positive cash flow because I knew things that he didn't know. They say in property, you don't know what you don't know. So if you don't know what you don't know, what don't you know? And there's lots of things in property that people don't know that can allow you to make money using multiple strategies. In fact, there's probably 50 different strategies in property for you to make money. I've only just touched on a couple of them this evening.
Let me share one that I just had recently. I've got my first month's payment in. First month, so I'm quite happy tonight. I was told, I decided I wanted to sell a couple of bits just to put some liquidity in the bank so I could travel premium economy rather than economy. So I decided to put a bit of money in the bank. And I was told this unit, if I sold it as is, 275. If I did it up, 325. I thought, The agent said, well, you're a property man. Why would you give someone 50 grand when you could do this for 10, 15? Makes sense. Great. Okay. So done it up. In fact, it cost me 13.5 to do it up. Put it out on the market, 325. Not a single bite. Reduced it. Offers over 300. Not a single bite. The agent said, well, let's go down to 275. I said, well, that was the 275 you told me that if I do nothing, I could get. In the end, I realized, okay, we went to 275. I got one viewing. I realized this market is not good for me right now to sell. Didn't want to rent it out to a long-term tenant because I thought, well, if the market turns, I'm going to have problems getting them out. Didn't want to put it into social housing because I wasn't sure quite what type of tenant I would get. Never really got into serviced accommodation. My daughter did some of that on a couple of units, and then COVID came. So my experience wasn't great. It didn't work out with the onset of COVID. So I never really got into it again. Gave it to a guy, the agent recommended, he's good at serviced accommodation, told me that the booking platform would charge, I think something like 15%. He as a company would charge his percentage, and then I get the balance. I thought, what the hell, let's give it a punt. The first payment I got in today was £2,393. My rental income on that to a private tenant, maximum would have been £1,500. Maximum for social housing would have probably been about £1,700. So to see that I've got 2,393, I'm quite over the moon. I know times will change throughout the course of the year, but based on his statistics and his data and what I'm seeing so far, it looks like it's going to average out at about two a year, two a month. So, just to back up what Emmanuel says, there are so many strategies out there, ones you haven't even thought about using or adopting. But when needs must, sometimes there are other options you can just embark on. And so far, so good. I can say it's been a good option I've taken.
I will just add to well, I think, sorry, Emmanuel, that outside of the social housing, there's also the supported living, which is one that I've done recently. I've done the same as Addy with turning one from an ordinary buy-to-let rental to service accommodation. I was able to charge an increased rent, a higher rent than an ordinary buy-to-let rental because they were making double the amount by renting it out for serviced accommodation. So that was great. But then the other side of it is buying another property whereby that went to a supported living care provider where they were paying more than double the rent because they were going to be having a very high income because of what they were using it for, and it was for elderly care. But I actually had supported living care providers arguing over taking this property, whether for a small boutique children's care home or a small boutique elderly care home. Whichever one I went to, both of them were going to be paying literally double the rent that I would have been getting on the open market for an ordinary rental. Plus, one of them were happy to do the work. So there are opportunities, you know, in other areas once you know. So back over to you on that, Emmanuel. Just living proof of that.
You're going to have many opportunities with tied landlords in the current marketplace. And if you're able to explain to them the benefit of going with you rather than going through an agent, or you explain to them the overall financial benefit, because that's what it's all about, the financial benefit. When you break it down for the average landlord, they've got to have a property vacant for minimum 3 to 6 months. That's how long the average mortgage is going through. So they're going to have a void of no rental income, costs on the property, maintenance costs. There's still going to be things like council tax, mortgage payments, and if they need to do the property up, it's going to cost them a lot of money. You can take all that headache away from them by structuring a really tax efficient deal that helps them, but also helps you, makes it a win-win scenario. Next slide, please. So smart exit options for landlords. As I was saying before, sell smart, tax efficient structures. Both Deanne and Addy will help you understand how to use the words, the terminology, the tax phrases to help a landlord understand that you're helping them exit in the most tax efficient way. Some people are basic rate taxpayers, other people are higher rate taxpayers. How do you construct the deal? How do you construct the purchase so it is the least tax that they have to pay? That's what they're looking for. If you come to me as a landlord, I want to know how much am I going to pay as low as possible when it comes to corporation tax or capital gains tax. I want to know how much am I going to receive and what can you do to actually help me. Then you've got package your portfolio to sell to other investors. You don't actually have to buy a property yourself if you don't have it. There are landlords that have multiple properties. They have blocks of flats where they want to exit in one go. They may not have it in a tax efficient structure. In fact, most older landlords don't have properties in limited companies or limited liability partnerships. They have them in their own name, and it's a very inefficient tax structure. You can work through these tax structures to help them sell or sell part of their portfolio. They don't have to sell the whole part of it to release equity or release cash from it. Help them pivot, as Addy was saying, to get a higher rental income. So one of my properties, I've just had somebody come from what it is now, which is HMO, into social living, and I've gone for £3,000 a month to 5,000, and they're making money on a rent-to-rent basis. They're making another 1,000 or 2,000 a month on top. Am I happy? Sure I am. I'm getting a higher rental income, and they're making money from the same property because they have the contact with the social housing. Then you have the even older landlords that are looking to mitigate their inheritance tax and to work out succession planning. All of these are linked into tax of how you help a landlord exit in the most tax efficient structure. People sell their properties for two reasons, and you might want to make a note of this. People only ever sell to get rid of the debt bit, which is the mortgage, or have access to the cash bit, which is the equity. Those are the only two reasons why people will ever sell a property: to get access to the cash, the equity, the cash bit, or get rid of the debt bit, which is the mortgage, because they can't afford it anymore, the payments are too high. Those are the only two reasons why people sell. And sometimes it's a combination of the two. If you know what that reason is for that person, what is their motivation driver, you can work out what's the best way to present your proposition to purchase the property. Working with experts like Deanne, like Addy, and myself to help you maximize your profits legally, how to get the best finance. There's lots of different mortgages on the market. Do you have a buy-to-let mortgage? Do you use a bridging loan? Do you have a combination of the two? Are you buying a property that you're going to be refurbishing? What kind of financial structure you need to do that? Working with people that understand, have done multiple transactions will help you navigate through that process as cheaply and as cost effectively as possible. Next slide, please. So how we can help you win. Deal structuring. Every single property can be structured in a different way. Then joint ventures. I've done probably hundreds of joint ventures. It's the best for me. It's one of the easiest ways to do property. It minimizes the risk because you bring two people together. It increases your knowledge because you both got your own network of people, your own professionals that you work with. And you can come up with some very creative financing. Now, joint venture doesn't mean necessarily 50-50. It can be 60-40, 70-30, 75-25. A joint venture is just two people coming together. One person might have the money, the other person might have the knowledge. You both might have money. A joint venture is just two people coming together to agree on how to buy something or how to structure something together. Joint ventures can work with buy-to-lets. It can work with a development or refurbishment. And then you've got commercial finance expertise. So property is not just about residential. There's huge opportunity in the commercial sector as well. We haven't really touched about the commercial side this evening, but commercial property being purchased through a company can offer some very attractive returns, very tax efficient structures, and you can simultaneously protect inheritance tax and succession if you do it through a pension or a SAS wrapper. Now, again, if you haven't heard of how you can buy properties where you get all your income in the property tax-free, a pension structure allows you to do that. You can purchase a property completely, all income, all profit tax-free. Then you've got residential and investment property strategies. So you've got residential is one strategy. Investment, which is commercial, is a different kind of strategy, how you buy property, different loan terms, different loan to value. Then you've got, in terms of full business restructuring, profit and exiting. Many people like Addy, myself and Deanna, we actually hold property in different limited companies. I can sell my limited company portfolio without somebody having to pay the full stamp duty. They only have to pay 0.5% if I sell them the company, as opposed to stamp duty at the full amount. So if I got a portfolio of £1 million and I have it in my personal name and I sell it to you in your personal name, you pay stamp duty, the full rate of stamp duty with the extra stamp duty cost on the £1 million. If it's a limited company and you sell the company, it's 0.5%. Again, a lot of people don't understand there's very tax efficient ways to buy and sell property. So in terms of building your wealth, you have Deanne, you have Addy, and you have myself that understand property inside out. We've been doing it for many decades, done it in many different ways, and bought between us, I think, hundreds of properties. I think that is probably me covered now, and I'll cover any questions that you guys or you want to add anything else together.
Okay, well, thank you very much for that, Emmanuel. Really appreciate that. I think everybody online tonight has appreciated that because it's some really good information. You know, I'm listening to it and I'm like, we could have done this over 3 hours quite easily, because you've given everybody a flavour for what the opportunities and options are out there. I think a deep dive would be really good, but time doesn't permit us to do that. I think maybe we'll look at doing a full webinar on this in the near future, because it is a wonderful time to maximize the opportunity that's out there. So if you want to keep abreast of what's going on, you know, really follow us on our socials, contact us via email or telephone. Come and have your free 20-minute consultation. Let's see what we can do. Let's see what you can do, more importantly, with our guidance. And, you know, they say opportunities only come once or twice in a lifetime. This is definitely an opportunity for acquisition. No two ways about it. We had it some years ago. Some people jumped on it. Some people missed it. If you can, don't miss this one. Okay?
Can I add one other thing, which is really quite important,
Of course you can.
which I have missed. So you now have large financial institutions buying not millions, but billions worth of property in the property market. They're going to be taking over control of the rental market. That's what's actually happening. The government doesn't want anyone to earn money, to be successful, and to be wealthy. BlackRock have bought just 1.4 billion worth of property. Lloyd's TSB are buying millions worth of property. They're all coming into the property market. There will never be a better time right now where the economic conditions allow you to enter into the property market, where you have tired landlords, interest rates coming down, the most amount of properties being bought by institutions shows you where they know the market is going and what they're doing. When the big boys do stuff, you know what's happening in the marketplace. This is the next 2 or 3 years is probably going to be another period where we were 20 or 30 years ago for real opportunities, where tired landlords are exiting, the big institutions are coming in. And if you understand how to use leverage, how to use mortgage, how to use debt with creative, clever structures, taxation combined, you will make an absolute fortune.
Thank you for saying that, actually, Emmanuel, because one of the questions that we posed was, you know, is this the buying window, you know, of the decade? And, you know, everything's always subject to change. So you will always have small windows of opportunity to do something, and then people will flood it, you know, everyone will get into it, and then it will change again. So things are forever shifting. And, you know, Addy can vouch for this, that at the moment, you know, we have lots of landlords coming to us with portfolios sort of saying, you know, I'm looking to sell. Now, as Emmanuel says, you know, sometimes people have 20, 30, 40 properties. Sometimes they're wanting to sell it en masse, sometimes they're offloading them individually. But what we're saying is this is happening now. So, you know, it's about putting yourself in a position where if you want to pick these up, that you can. And sometimes, you know, it's just about speaking to professionals that can help you structure it, which is what Emmanuel has been saying. It's, you know, sometimes it's people are sitting there thinking, God, well, I can't afford to do this, or I can't afford to that. I hear people sort of saying, I can't afford to do this, and they've got masses of equity locked up in property that they haven't accessed, and they're saying they can't do this. So sometimes we don't know what we don't know, and sometimes we just don't do these things through lack of knowledge. So it really is about understanding what the opportunities are. And for those that are selling up en masse as well, didn't really touch on that, Emmanuel, but I would say that there are opportunities for those landlords that are selling up en masse, because obviously what they don't want to do is sit on that wealth and just have it in a bank account where they're not earning much interest. So what are those opportunities for those landlords? You know, some of them are actually lending that money out for a return, say 10%. So if somebody took £1 million earned £1 million from a sale, or the sale of their portfolio, it's £1 million in the bank. Okay, if they're going to lend that 1 million based on 10% per annum, that's an income of 100,000 per annum over the year. Now that is passive income, because they won't be doing anything for that. And there are lots of people who, like I say, don't have the liquidity. So, you know, that can be put back into the property industry for those wanting to buy. But that's just one opportunity. I'm sure there are others. I don't know if you want to touch on anything there at all, Emmanuel, before we wrap.
Yeah, can I give an example? So I'm going to give an example exactly of this. So I was dealing with 2 tired landlords that had 4 properties, 4 flats and a house, all combined together. Actually 7 to 9 Exmouth Street, just off Commercial Street near Whitechapel. I purchased the properties for just under 2 million, and they gave me all the deposit, complete vendor finance, so the full 25% deposit and the stamp duty. And I pay them a reoccurring income every month, because it's what they were going to put the money in the bank. They were going to get 1 or 2% if they were lucky, and I'm giving them a yield of 5% on their funds. So you will have lots of landlords that don't know what to do with the money when they sell the property. They still want income, and if you can give them a higher return on the same property they've owned, so they know it already, it's going to be secured on their property as a second charge. They would be more than happy if you structure. That's why I said, if you understand finance, you understand money, you understand taxation, you understand what the problem is, why they're selling it, is to get access to the debt, the cash bit, which is the equity, or get rid of the debt bit, or combination of the two. Most people want access to the cash when they're older. And then what are they going to do with that cash? What's the most tax efficient way you can help them exit? And that's one of the ways you can do what's called vendor finance. And I'm sure Jan and Addy will show you how you can structure that with lots of landlords.
Definitely. Thank you for that, Emmanuel. And we are doing this as we speak. You know, we have clients come in, and sometimes, you know, I'm doing it, Addy's doing it. Sometimes we're, you know, discussing bits with Emmanuel on different ways. And this is why we love working with Emmanuel as well, because of the creativity. So, you know, there's always a way, isn't there, guys? There's always a way. And it's just looking at the circumstances that present and just finding out, okay, what's the most tax efficient way to deal with this project, or what is the most profitable way to deal with this project? How can we structure it creatively? It's about thinking outside of the box, and we are doing that on a daily basis for landlords and for investors, people wanting to buy. So on that note, I'm going to ask if there's anything else that you want to wrap up with before handing you over to Addy. Emmanuel, what's your final words?
I have a couple of words. So I have a ditty that I say, money is fun, money is good. Not everyone has it, yet everyone should. Over to you, Addy.
Say that one again, Andy. Let me just absorb that one.
Money is fun, money is good. Not everyone has it, but everyone should.
Nice. Yeah, I like that. I like that. I agree with everyone on should, especially with what I see on the TV nowadays, all the starvation and it's horrible. It's a shame. But do you know what? I'm working with just before I go through the questions, I'm working with a client at the moment. We started off in around March this year, and really 9 to 5er, 56 years old now, earns a reasonable salary, got a bit of savings, and he's saying, look, I've got to do the property. I've got to do the property stuff. I've been waiting long enough. I'm waiting long enough. He said, but my only thing is, what if it doesn't work out? And I said to him, well, I asked that question sort of 40 years ago. And you know what? I realized that if it doesn't work out, I'll go back and do my 9 to 5. Then fast forward to 40 years, my answer would be different. It would be, as I said to him, well, picture this. You walk in the office one day, 56 years old, and they make you redundant. Where'd you go then? He said, let's crack on. Yeah, at the moment he swallowed that thought, he said, let's crack on. Show me what I need to do. He now possesses 2 properties, and we should be exchanging on one. I think it's the 21st of this month. So he's gone for it. And 2 of them were straightforward buy-to-lets. This most recent one is a much more structured lease option agreement. So there are ways. You just got to talk to someone who knows all the different options. But let's move on to some of the questions that have been kindly submitted. I've got one here from Liz. Liz L. She asks, what's the best way to find out about a portfolio sale? Emmanuel, can you share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so most of the properties that come on the marketplace are going to be through agents. Lots of letting agents, typically, that's why I would go to, not the sales agent. Lots of letting agents deal with portfolio landlords. So I'd build a relationship with 1 or 2 local letting agents that work with portfolio landlords. I'd also ask them which of your landlords are older, 60 plus. those are the ones that are really looking to be exiting from the marketplace in a very efficient tax structure. So those were I would start first and foremost. And then I would look at things like Zoopla. I'd look at the commercial auctions. That's where you're going to get properties being sold in masses, blocks at a time. But local letting agents will be dealing with portfolio landlords.
And that can be both residential and commercial. Your letting agent for residential will show you residential portfolios. The commercial landlord, the commercial agent will show you some residential, but in blocks rather than one or two, or even some commercial properties that a landlord wants to sell. So it's absolutely right. It's about your contacts and your connections. Also, talking to the likes of us, we've got a couple of landlords at the moment have asked us to look at their portfolios and how we can help them sell those. And as Deanne rightly mentioned, it can be as a block or it can be individual. They're not really concerned. They just want to release their money. And what Emmanuel has said tonight is what I'm going to go and say to them also is, what's the plan for your money when you've sold it? Because we could reutilize that money with some JVs. Dee, what's your thoughts on it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I see it every day. It's we've got landlords coming to us, haven't we? So we're living proof of that. They're on the market, and we know the plans that we've got for the future. We do have plans for the future to be sharing some of these portfolio properties with our members as well. So so we know that that's coming up. So again, if that's something that you're looking to invest in, do listen out and watch out for what's happening for us in the not too distant future. But landlords are definitely selling up en masse. It's happening. So position yourself, and it's a great question, Liz. How do you find these? Network, be with the people in the know, be with the people that can give you access to these portfolios. Yeah.
No, brilliant. Can I ask a question as well? And that, again, on the same thing. Thanks. That's brilliant. Really, really helpful. And do you think another thing is the sort of tax trade that's going to happen on pensions, which is driving this as well? Because if landlords have got, as you said, maybe commercial properties in their pensions, and there's going to be this tax trade by Labour on your pension. They're trying to get their money out and distribute it.
So if you want my view on Keir Starlin and racial thieves, you really have to understand taxation to help somebody exit effectively. Because yes, they are doing a raid on almost every area of your wealth, now including pensions. So you can help landlords exit in a much more tax efficient way, even with a pension. So there are pensions like SASs. If they're set up correctly, you can have multiple members, so you can redistribute that wealth within the same family or add people to that pension or that SAS. So that's a tax efficient way that you can help landlords that are holding property in their pensions or other kind of vehicles that they actually hold them in.
I remember a few years ago, the not IRS, HMRC, was speaking to a couple of accountants, and they said they've just hired about 500 extra inspectors and I'm talking, this is probably about 9 years ago, but they've just employed across the country this large number of inspectors because they realized that the country is broke, and the one area where they can see money is being made is within the property sector. So they decided it's going to be cost effective to hire 500 or whatever, 25 to 35,000 pounds a year times 500, and they will get a return bigger than that expense. So that should tell you something. The property sector, the government, the what's I'm looking for, number 9 or number 11, the Chancellor knows they need to find some money. We see it all the time. Police force now, they're cutting, but everything's just happening with cuts. Where would you go and get the money if you were the Chancellor? One of those 3 options you'd come up with would be the property sector. So expect changes, expect to be pillaged, then expect them to raid your coffers. So we just have to structure ourselves in the right way, understanding tax, so that we legitimately minimize our tax liabilities.
Very big
Did-
difference between mitigation and tax avoidance. So tax
Absolutely.
mitigation, we're all about minimizing your tax legitimately, legally as possible.
Absolutely.
That's
Dee, did you want to?
fantastic.
Sorry, Liz, did that answer your question?
Well, no, that was absolutely fantastic. Thank you. Really helpful on
Not a
multiple.
problem. Okay, great. Always like a happy person on our Zooms, and you sound very happy. Okay, so next question. Is it a good time to sell or keep buy-to-let properties? I think we've covered some of that, but let's give it a final specific answer to that question. Deanne, do you want to start with that one? Or should we let Emmanuel?
Sorry, I was muted. Sorry, I was muted. Yeah,
It's the
sorry.
Bayesian sun.
I know. I'm kind of half zoned out here, but yeah, no, it's all good. So is it a good time to buy-to-let properties? Was that the question, Addy?
Yeah, is it a good time to sell or keep buy-to-let properties?
Okay. So I think two things. Number one, and Emmanuel did touch on this, is it does depend on your structure first and foremost. Okay. Because number one is if you're doing it all in your own name, then that's one thing. If you're doing it in a company structure, then that's a different thing. I think the thing to be aware of with buy-to-let is, as Emmanuel says, the increasing changes that are happening in laws and tenants' rights and things like that. So that's just one of the things that you have to be mindful of. And this is why I think a lot of people are looking at other avenues. You know, they're looking at supported living, they are looking at social housing, where they're leasing out properties to councils for, 5-10 years or whatever. You know, people are looking at service accommodation, but you still have to be careful with that because there might be some regulatory changes coming to that as well. So as you know, again, as Addy's also said earlier on, the government need money. So wherever they see money is being made, it's not going to be long before they are delving into that pool to come and make some ripples. And not even ripples, waves. So I think that the main thing is, whilst I won't say buy-to-let is totally dead, I would say number one is really look at your location, look at your structure before your location, look at your structure, make sure you're in the right structure, look at your location, make sure you're getting a good ROI, return on your money, and the yields, because obviously there are places where, your yields are much lower. So your money's not working as hard as it should do. Make informed decisions. Come and speak to people like us that can help you to choose to invest in or how to invest in the right areas, and make sure that that strategy is right for that location, because it might be that buy-to-let is not the right strategy for where you're looking or where you're investing in the first place anyway. All right.
Some good words of wisdom there, Dee. I totally concur. Emmanuel, over to you. What do you think?
I would say it depends where you are, whether you're buying or selling. If you're prepared, it could be good for either of you. Brian Tracy says the luck factor is when preparedness recognizes opportunity. Just like the stock market, people make money when the market goes up and when it goes down. If you understand the marketplace, you can make money selling, you can make money buying. As Deanne said, what is your yield? There are landlords that are selling property because the yield that they're getting on the property now is not what it was when they first built it. So if you've had a property a long time, as the property increases in value, your yield on your equity shrinks. So you could sell your property and repurpose that and go from maybe 6 or 7% to 25 or 30% return on equity. So it depends where you are in the marketplace, whether you're buying or whether you're selling. It could be good for either one if you know what your numbers are. Property is always about numbers. What ROI are you getting? What return on investment are you getting? Return on investment on the purchase price or return on investment on the capital deployed? I like to look on return on investment on capital deployed because that's how much money I'm making on the money I've actually invested.
Good words, good words, good words. Well, thank you very much for that,
Can
Emmanuel.
I just say there that if anyone doesn't fully understand that, then we can help you understand that here at MPC. You know, you can come to any one of us here. I'm a consultant, Addie's a consultant, Emmanuel consults also. So if you need better understanding, if you say, for instance, you do have a portfolio, you don't want to get rid of it just yet, but you don't think it's operating at peak performance, you don't think you're getting the return on investment, you don't think you're making that yield, you know, you want someone to analyze that for you, do come to us. We can help you analyze and look at those numbers and see whether your money should be working better for you elsewhere or whether you're doing fine and dandy.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Good stuff. Come and see us. Thank you, Cliff P, for that question. I didn't get a chance to mention your name earlier, but I recognize your name. You're not a first timer. Always good to have you back. Thank you, Cliff. Last question from Akila. Akila D. I know Akila. Been seeing her on many of our GP clinics. Akila asks, with landlords us, okay, let me try and interpret side. Landlords are selling, with landlords selling, if you take on the property, and can you overcome the changes with the tenancy agreements? Akila, are you with us? Well, you're normally with us. Akila? All right. If you're not, let me
Yeah,
just
I'm here. I'm sorry, Addy.
Akila,
That was
that's
quite
all right.
quick.
Just explain
It
what
was
you're
quite-
asking, please.
Yeah, so basically what I was trying to work out, if I took on a buy to let, what are the implications of the changes that they're sort of bringing on board, and how will that affect me? Because I've heard lots of people say about how you can't get your tenants out now within 12 months, for instance. So I was just wondering, what are the implications if you become a buy to let landlord at this moment in time?
Thank you, Akila. That's clarified it, your question very succinctly. We're short of time, so Emmanuel, if you'd like to give your opinion in a minute or so, and then Dean, I'll let you have yours, and then I think that'll be it for the questions for tonight.
Yeah, that's a killer question, I think. So most lenders don't like you to take on an existing tenant. So what they would want you to do is to have the property vacant. If you take on an existing tenancy, then I would suggest that you have a new tenancy agreement put in place when you take over the property and start it again. Do your own referencing for that tenant. Go through their credit file, check who they are, check their payments with the previous landlord to make sure you're not taking on any surprises. You have to do a lot more due diligence when you take on a property that has an existing tenant in place.
Yeah,
always better to buy the property vacant, so you can actually choose your tenant yourself. But if you have a tenant in situ, it gives you the ability to negotiate a much better price with the landlord because you're taking on the risk. So you could have held back with your lawyer 12, 18 months worth of rent if you need to get the tenant out, and you only pay the owner that property if there's no issues with the particular tenant. It's called a retention. So there's many ways you can structure a deal. So you need to do much more due diligence when you have a tenant in situ.
Okay. Emmanuel, thank you very much for that. And by the way, Emmanuel, I do the jokes. All right, son? I do the jokes, not you. Okay, Dee, over to you.
Yeah, I'm not going to really add much to that because he did cover it. Emmanuel did cover that earlier on as well. But what I would just say is that there's pros and cons with everything. And whilst you do have to do extra due diligence if you are taking on a property with a tenant in situ, the pro to that is that you're going to be cash flowing from day one. So, and if, you know, obviously depends on your circumstances, most people would prefer that. So, yeah, I would just say, obviously, just understand what it is that you are taking on. Make sure you dot your I's and cross your T's.
Okay.
That's
Thank you
it.
very much. And a last word from me on that. I think one of the things that Keela is asking about is the Renters Reform Bill, and that thing about not being able to issue section notices, section 21 notices to evict tenants. There is going to be something, it's just not going to be called a section 21. They will remodel it, reshape it to give the tenant a bit more security, but there's never going to be something where you cannot get rid of your tenant. What that looks like, the government are still working through it. The Renters Reform Bill hasn't come into legislation yet. So all I can say again, If you've got any doubts, come and talk to us. We'll tell you where it's at the moment. And as it becomes statute and comes into law and enforced, then we'll be able to share the updates then. But it shouldn't be that you don't get rid of, because you can't get rid of a tenant, that you should not get into property. I have a simple view. If you're a tenant and I qualify you as a good tenant, it means you pay my rent on time and you keep my property in order. And as a result of that, I will keep you somewhat happy. You need a new mattress, I'll buy you a mattress. Your coffee table leg is broken, you get a new coffee table. It's not worth taking on a confrontation unnecessarily. And last but not least, all my property tenants come with guarantors. So if you think you're going to sit there and not pay me while I'm going through the courts to get rid of you, your guarantor will pay me. And if your guarantor doesn't pay me, I'll put a charge on the guarantor's house. The money comes very quickly as a result of that. So don't be scared. Don't be put off. Just come and talk. Get educated. Come and speak to us at MPC. Dee's waving. I know she wants her last little words. So I'll hand over to her in a moment. But listen, on behalf of myself, I would just like to say thank you so much for coming online tonight. It's been a wonderful session. I've really enjoyed it. I've really enjoyed the participation from you, the attendees. Emmanuel, you've been a superstar as ever. And my co-founder, Dee, enjoying the sunshine in Barbados. What can I say? I'll stay here and do the work. So I'll let you have the final word.
Thank you. I was actually just going to ask a really quick question to Emmanuel, and I'm just going to throw it out there. I don't know if you can answer it in sort of 10, 15 seconds maximum, because I've had this question asked several times, and that is, you know, are the government going to make changes whereby landlords do have to sell to their tenants at what is deemed to be a fair market price, or which is supposed to be a price that is lower than the market price? Is that a change you see coming?
I don't see it coming this time round, but I do see there will be changes in the future. The Labour government is not pro landlords. They're doing whatever they can. In fact, the Conservative government started it. So if you do it in a tax efficient structure like a limited company, it's going to be very difficult for them to do so compared to your own private name. So you have to be abreast of politics, legislation, and just keep yourself informed.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for that.
Alternatively, come and speak to us. Get a summarized view.
Definitely. Thank you so much for that, Emmanuel. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Great session. As Adi says, I think this is one that we will take to a webinar because there's so much more to discuss. It's a lot to try and cram into an hour, but thank you for taking time out to come and join us and to submit your questions as well. I can't leave without leaving you with a quote. As you all know, I love to do this. And my quote today is, whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. Okay, all right. So I'll leave that with you. And until we do see you again, which will hopefully be the first Wednesday of next month at 7 p.m, all I have left to say to you is you've been fantastic. The guys I've been working with have been absolute stars. I've been Dee. Do not count your days, but please do make your days count. Okay, take care. God bless.
Good night,
Thanks so
everybody.
much.
Good night.